Say hi. Well, now that my unintended hiatus is over, let's get back into things. Also, there's going to be moments that for time reasons I'm just going to use the cell phone's microphone, because the audio program I was using for my XLR microphone was having some glitches until I figured it out and fixed it after the fact. Well, let's move on. I want this video to be something more than just me looking at the comments and reacting to them. I want people to understand that I do read them and process them and take them into consideration, everything. So, I'm labeling this video something like Insane Clown Posse Part 1.5 or maybe something else, but I want it to be clear that I want this video to be seen as something that is a continuation of the previous Insane Clown Posse video I made, but it's only continuing in this fashion because of the commenters out there who told me many interesting things and even corrected me on some stuff that I will be getting into. And I've wanted to do this video for a long time, but I always felt there was some sort of deadline with other stuff I wanted to talk about. And to be completely honest, I'm not happy with how slow things have been going for me lately, but they will not be this slow going forward. Now, the first thing I'll talk about real quick is that we're going to have a little bit of a lightning round on all the misattributions I made for sources of videos and images throughout the video. Now, I did make a corrected version of this video when I played it during the 500 subscriber stream, but I really can't do it on the main video, so we're going to do it here. Also, this means that I can unpin my comment about the corrections on the video and let what I think is a more important comment take the top spot. We'll get into that later. The video playing during Wax Museum is from the Columbo episode Dagger of the Mind. For House of Horrors, I show a picture of the haunted house from the new version of It. The Zen of Love was supposed to be where I made a joking reference to the Love Guru. Shimmer was a photoshopped image of a banshee decoration from Spirit Halloween. Finally, the painting in clown heads is from an episode of Rocko's Modern Life. And those are the ones that I know about that needed attention. Now, I was also aware that I had trouble editing and discussing the ICP Before ICP section of the video for numerous reasons, and that brings me to the comment by JigglesClown7359. And with the 8 minutes in thing, I know what he's talking about because I know what I edited out and what I was having trouble trying to discuss and describe. And this will also tie into a comment by Psychotic, who mentions that I left out the JJ Boys. And yes, Party at the Top of the Hill was the first song that Violent J, Shaggy, and Shaggy's brother John Kickjazz ever recorded together. Now, I'm not above saying that this was something that I screwed up on because I was very adamant about an idea I had during this section of the video that would eventually got edited out. And also I was having a heck of a time trying to figure out how to concisely explain the timeline of the moment. The original section of ICP Before ICP was about 30 to 40 minutes long. And that's because a lot of the stuff that I was trying to discuss at that part was a lot of what was in the autobiography. That probably was reflective as hell in that. Like, going through things about childhood, how they grew up, blah blah blah. And in that sense, I decided to start cutting all that out because I felt that all I was doing was just, rereading the autobiography when everybody out there can see it for themselves, especially since the audiobook is on the Internet Archive. And no, I didn't bring that up in the original video because I didn't know if it was something that they were actually selling, and I really want the people that I talk about to get some profit or some recognition or something from the videos I make about them, be it, somebody buying ICP albums or whatever, or, other people I talk about, they like and subscribe to them. That's what I've been starting to say lately. Like and subscribe to me second, if I've earned it. Now, as you notice from the comment, and from what I'm about to say here, Party at the Top of the Hill was before Violent J, Shaggy, and John Kickjazz called themselves ICP. So they called themselves the JJ Boys at the time, with different monikers of... And yes, I'm reading verbatim from the book now, just for simplicity, and to ensure I'm not overlooking or making mistakes about anything at this time. Violent J being Jagged Joe, Shaggy 2 Dope being Kangle Joe, and John Kickjazz being Master J. Now, because they were the JJ Boys, and they later became Insane Clown Posse, I saw a connection there, and I really, really convinced myself and was dead set to do some sort of reference to how in the Trolls Files by Malicious Bunny, there was a character that was named JJ the Clown, but I decided to cut that out because I felt that it was a video on ICP and I probably shouldn't be trying to promote another creator in it, no matter how much I believed and still believe that other creators I talk about are deserving of your attention. Especially since I felt that being a sort of horror musical mod, it might be up the alley of a bunch of fans of ICP. Also, discussing it ran the risk of implying that there was some sort of reference to ICP with the character in the game, when, as far as I know, that's not the case. However, because it was something that I worked on so much and focused on so much for that introduction area, when I removed it, I took out a few other things from their early albums, and for some reason didn't think to re-record them. I think at the time it was just because I had so few views and I didn't expect anybody else except for the current subscribers to see the video, and I just kind of brushed it off as I felt that if they didn't know, they wouldn't care. Yeah, the point of making the video was to make them care, so good job me, right? I will clarify, however, that the stuff I did leave out, they mostly can't be heard or bought. That might be another reason why I kind of skipped over them, but in any case, some of these, though, I believe are out there somewhere, but I can't confirm that right now. But again, just reading stuff from the book just to make sure I don't skip over anything or misrepresent anything. That actually reminds me, that's another thing that I had trouble with in the timeline. My primary source for a lot of the early stuff was the autobiography, and the pictures shown, as well as other things I read online when I was doing research, was showing a few contradictions that I wasn't entirely sure how to mesh together. Now, Violent J is the first one to say that he might not remember things right, but I was still going with the book as the primary source on the information. So first they had Party at the Top of the Hill as the JJ Boys, and that was one song. After that, Violent J used the name Violent J for the first time and recorded an LP called Enter the Ghetto Zone, which is the one that I mentioned in the video that he stuck his head between two tape recorders to rap to. And he gave those away for free, but they weren't sold. Ghetto Territory was the first time they used Inner City Posse as their group name, and it was once again Violent J, Shaggy 2 Dope, and John Kickjazz, this time with those names. Intelligence and Violence was an EP that Violent J made with a guy named D Lyrical, mostly because he wanted to get access to the karaoke machine the guy had. But it's interesting to think that this might actually be the earliest time that Violent J was trying to have a concept to what he was rapping about. This is actually something I'm a little upset I left out of the video, because this is an interesting thought. It was called Intelligence and Violence because his concept was D Lyrical was doing the more intelligence songs and lyrics on the EP, while Violent J was doing the violence of it. And then after that was Basement Cuts, I assume it's pronounced, which was what they called their first real release, to record on the cassettes and then not just pass them out, but they actually tried selling them as well. And that is what led to Inner City Posse releasing Dog Beats, and that catches up to what I was saying in the video. Now, speaking of referencing from the book, Old School Tommy I believe, reminded me that instead of telephone poles, it was railroad ties and garden hose that they used to make their wrestling ring out of. To which, to show that he was correct, I cited the exact page number in the biography. And as I mentioned in the comment, I had an issue at the time of being in a sort of get it done mode that led to me skipping over some things and, as you saw previously, making mistakes over citations and edits. And this is tied to being up till 3 or 5 in the morning, which is why I try not to stay up that late doing videos anymore, but, well, still happens. Now, what you're about to see next is a couple of comments that I consider very important because they led to a lot of things I realized that I'm going to be getting into and discussing after we look over what they said. Now, for context, however, I'm going to play this clip from the video so that anybody who hasn't seen it or needs a refresher will know exactly what they're referencing when I talk about this. And I also seem to recall a guy named Johnny Cash getting awards for singing songs about killing people in Reno just to watch them die. Okay, maybe not that specific song, but they didn't chase him out of the industry for singing it. Honestly, I've always told my friends I always find a lot of similarity between country music and rap. I mean, think about it. The stereotypical songs for both genres are wearing a certain style of clothing, driving a certain style of car, partying all night, drinking a certain sort of beverage, being with women, and enjoying certain styles of guns, as well as going against authority figures. Now, the Arabian Mage and Snakes 200 both had different things to say about this section. One was critical, one was positive, but both of them made me criticize myself over mistakes that I made that turned out to be very, very big in my mind. In fact, I'm actually going to need something for this part. Now, I brought up Johnny Cash in the video because I was a big fan of him, still am, and I highly respect him. Nothing I said in the video was meant to be a criticism about Johnny Cash. However, when I realized what it was meant to be a criticism of, that's when I realized that Johnny Cash was a bad example. And then I realized he was a worse example when I finally solved the puzzle of who else I could have talked about that was a better example. Now, as I mentioned in the video, I was using images from the cards of the Into the Echo Side card game that I was told about. And in them, there's a number of rappers they've worked with, acts, music groups. I don't know how clear that can show up on camera, but there's Guar. So, I want everybody out there to think a little bit. If I'm trying to make a statement about modern country, about bad boy country stars that got awards, who do you think is on this card that was staring me in the face the entire time I was working on the video, that is a contemporaneous country star that won awards that has connections to Insane Clown Posse? I feel that it is the biggest mistake I have ever made on this channel to not make the comparison to Jelly Roll in that segment. Now, in my defense, when I first saw that card, I did look up who Jelly Roll was, because I thought I had heard of him. And when I saw a country music star that got CMA awards, I thought to myself, there is no way in hell that a guy on that card and that image with that kind of portrayal would have been accepted by the country music people. I was under the impression they were too squeaky clean and crap, but I mean, I should have remembered that Dolly Parton is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame now, and actually released a rock album, generally because they wouldn't take no for an answer when she told them not to do that. And she figured, well, I'm not going to be a liar, I'm going to make a rock album. At least that's the story I heard. And it doesn't matter if that's actually correct in this case, it's just if I thought that, then I should have thought that maybe I should have double-checked Jelly Roll a little more. Again, 3 or 5 in the morning that I'm thinking of this stuff. But the real issue was that when I was listening repeatedly to the albums, when I listened through the Yum Yum Bedlam album, I kept hearing this. Now I know that says Devereaux now, but I thought at the time it was actually saying Jelly Roll, and I thought I was in a situation here where one guy had the same name as somebody else without knowing it, like how Lady Antebellum tried changing their name to Lady A and had to deal with somebody who already had that name as a performer. This thing's starting to hurt me now. Hey, stupidity hurts. Now that brings us to what Snakes 200 said, because putting together the realization I had about Jelly Roll and trying to compare how everybody was treating ICP to the modern music industry as a whole anyway, that's when I realized in that segment I overlooked something else that was probably a very important thing to talk about. Now, Snakes 200 says he agrees with me about the thing about country and rap having comparisons in the car you drive, beverages, partying all night, whatever. But reading his comment, almost like how you realize things by saying them out loud, his comment made me think of the fact that modern rap and country have that problem. And by that I mean the stuff on the radio, the stuff people sing and get their album deals, the stuff that, you know, I don't want to make it sound like I'm talking down on anybody, but the manufactured stuff, the stuff that the record labels want to have so that they can put it out there, and it sounds like everything else because, you know, like Hollywood and video games or whatever, they have, you know, they have their committee sitting in the office or whatever saying, this is what people like, so we need more of that kind of crap, you know? Jelly Roll got his awards because he was singing from the heart. He was honest about what he was singing, and he's always been honest about himself, his life, the bad things he's done, how he's cleaned up, and how he's trying to help other people not go down those roads. But that kind of honest singing or performing about life experiences is something I've also noticed about, we'll just call them the classic versions of country and rap. The inner city gangster rap, whether it be the West Coast or East Coast, what have you. The kind of Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, old style country music where, and they still do it to this day, I guess, but it's just, there's the difference between the two. As a general statement, I get the idea that people out there feel that the classic country and the classic rap is where the more honest performers are. And in some ways, it's actually easiest to get into them. And I say that with quotation marks because, as my father has pointed out, the music industry is probably, if not absolutely, the hardest entertainment industry to break out in. As a rapper, you get a backing beat, or whatever. You play a tape, whatever. You hit the demo key on the Casio when you're starting out. Not disparaging, I'm just saying it's easy. It's a low bar of entry, so to speak. And honestly, the focus on rap mostly is the lyrics and the flow of it. So what is it if not just an evolution of slam poetry or something? With country music, if you can play one instrument, that's enough. Typically harmonica or guitar kind of thing. And there's also not an expectation of complexity with how it all sounds either. Like I said, if you're singing from the heart or doing things honestly, people can tell that. And that's what they appreciate, and that's why they listen to you. And I mean, that's not to say it's still easy-ist or whatever. If you honestly suck, people are. And while it's true that there's a lot of modern music that also goes into things about life experiences, lamentations about society, things like that, I think we all feel that classic rap and classic country, or old school of either one, I think that might be the better term for them, is a place where we can find it more often, or find it more believable that the people singing them actually have emotion behind what they're saying. If there's any country songs out there that I would suggest people listen to that really fit this idea, then I would heavily suggest Skip a Rope and Class of 57. They're both songs I have only heard once on the radio, and they just stuck with me ever since I heard them the first time. And I think I've talked about that enough, but I hope I made the point there that there's a lot good that's comparable between rap and country, and possibly other genres as well that I don't know too much about. That was definitely something that I should have realized and put in the main video. And thank you to both the Arabian Mage and Snakes 200 for making me realize this. That's why another thing I'm making sure to put in the video's title is comment or contribution. On to Metronome 8471, who asks if I've ever played Morton's List. Morton's List is kind of a LARPing rulebook for an extension of the idea, I suppose, of Mary Poppins's Spoonful of Sugar song. The idea behind Morton's List is that you had a book and it had a number of quest ideas in it to actually do in the real world, or in conjunction with another errand you were doing, I suppose. And I will be the first one to say that yes, some of the ideas were questionable. However, important to the rules of Morton's List, like you would see in something like the World of Darkness books or other RPGs, is that the players are not just either choosing or randomly deciding a quest from the book to participate in and go out and spend an hour doing it in real life. The focus is also that they are discussing it beforehand and making sure that how they're interpreting the quest and what they're about to do is not just a fun interpretation of things, but also something that is within their moral code. So while there's controversy about it, which is listed a bit on the Wikipedia page for it, it's kind of your choice how far to take things. Should it have been in the book in the first place? Not my place to judge. They put it in there, it got banned because of what was in it. That was something they probably either expected or weren't surprised by. Again, they're doing things their way. However, because I don't have an actual copy of the book, I have no idea how far things were suggested to go in it or whatever. What I do know is that even though it's out of production and there were controversies behind it, this sounds like something that if they cleaned it up, put a different name on it or something, had a different publisher or whatever, and marketed it as something that was meant to be sort of creative adventure book for kids, for them cleaning the room, doing the dishes, picking up toys or whatever. That sounds like something that would sell incredibly well. And this is something that rolls into the next two comments as well. B. Deli Official and Fallen Gamer both mentioned about my description of miracles in the video. I'm going to assume that I misspoke about miracles, so I'm going to apologize about that. What I was trying to convey when I was talking about the miracles section was my confusion over not so much the meme, but the general public reaction of it. Not specifically my thoughts on the song itself. like the implication was that everybody out there was going, haha, look how stupid it is that ICP is trying to do this song. Because of that, I missed the forest for the trees, we can say. And I didn't actually discuss much about the song itself and what they were trying to get along as the meaning of it. Be Deli Official actually says that they never expected Miracles to become something that was a meme or going viral. Now, I read stuff that said that Violent J was saying they did plan on it, but that might be something that he said after the fact. But I'm assuming he's seen interviews or something that were earlier than that, so Violent J might just be playing it up in later interviews or something. And Fallen Gamer mentioned something about the song and interviews about it that reminded me of something that was said in the autobiography as well. And for timeline purposes, the autobiography was written years before Miracles was written. So as Fallen Gamer brings up, the inspiration behind Miracles was about how Violent J was watching his kids be fascinated by things that adults take for granted. And as I said in response to him, I know there was a part in the autobiography where he actually said something similar about how as we grow up we're not allowed to be having this wonder or having this sort of expression of ourselves compared to what kids are allowed. And it's not something that ICP has only brought up in those two places either. There's one song they came out with called Birthday Party, with an F, where they were singing about how when they were kids, they were friends. As they grew older, they had to learn about things about themselves that made them grow distant from each other. And then finally, later on in school, they used to go to each other's birthday party, but now one of them's looking at the other going, I'm too cool to be seen with you anymore, kind of stuff. As my video was trying to explain with the lore and some of the history with them, there was more to them and what they were doing than just being scary-looking clowns. Moving on, Sinister Salem 1983 mentioned my statement about ICP retiring from touring, and then said that they were touring right now. Now, at the time of the video, the only information I had available were the articles and interviews that Violent J had given about his heart condition. The information given was that they were stepping back from touring and that Violent J was only going to be active in tours when it was something like Gathering of Juggalos or big events like that. I looked online to see about the touring, and they were doing regular tours, not, big name only tours. So I assume Violent J's feeling healthy enough to be doing that again. The funny thing is, though, when I looked up that information, the Google AI results and a bunch of other results at the time were mentioning a hoax of Insane Clown Posse doing a tour with Dolly Parton. So it was clear it was a hoax at the time, but the Google AI thing, which said it was a hoax, mentioned that Dolly Parton did know about ICP and respected them. Now that's AI saying it, so I don't trust it any more than I can throw my car. Well, I did very quickly figure out that Dolly Parton apparently has either not heard of Insane Clown Posse, or at least hasn't made any statements about them, showing an opinion one way or the other. I did talk to friends at work about this whole thing and said something along the lines of, I would not be surprised if Insane Clown Posse does have a bunch of people in the country music world now that do know about them and have some sort of opinion about them because of Jelly Roll now having awards in the country music area. And, when people are looking up his history or when they're talking to him in interviews, he's not shy about letting people know that Insane Clown Posse was a part of his history. Insane Clown Posse does have a history of, if you're in their tour, you're opening for them, you're on stage or whatever, then they do want you to be seen, noticed, and they want to help give you that boost to be out there. Now, in some instances, they have people playing on stage like Old Dirty Bastard, who are already established and stuff, and in that case, it's just them trying to share with everybody else out there the people they like and, have their heroes perform with them. But the funny thing is, this leads into another thing that I found out over the summer, which is probably one of the weirdest stories I've learned. Okay, so I'm going to have to step in real quick and make a very quick and dirty edit and an explanation. When I originally recorded this part, I didn't know the full extent of who I was talking about. So I'm cutting the lead-in part that I originally recorded, because now it feels like I was name-dropping and or implying that I had connections with these people when I don't. So to lead into the rest of this, I'll only say that over the summer, I had a conversation with somebody in a very plain setting that had nothing to do with anybody's profession, hobbies, or status, including implying any of that. Is actually in the music industry, tours through the world. I think he said he'd been to Germany once. And his band was a heavy metal, death metal band, something like that. And we're discussing the independent music scene. Of course, after all the research I've done and the video I made, I talk about ICP a little bit. And he says something like, "Oh yeah, I know they do that. I know they do that stuff with independent music and helping people out. I was out there with them in the woods for a couple days." So we'll talk a little more, and then suddenly it clicks to me, and I said, "Wait a second. Did you go see them up there in whatever state he said he was in?" He goes, "Oh no, we played on stage." I was like, "You gotta be kidding me." It's funny, and this will happen later on in the video when I talk about Juggalos. It's one thing to read stuff or hear about it. It's another thing entirely to hear it directly for yourself. That, the stories were true kind of stuff. And if you're interested in looking up these guys, their band name is Dying Fetus. Echo256 mentions that they're from Switzerland, and in the chain of comments I had with them, I mentioned that I intended fully to bring up in the video that Insane Clown Posse has toured the world, and they do have fans nearly everywhere. When I did the section about John Kickjazz's death, that was originally going to be me sharing a website from Belgium, a fan website, that published a eulogy that was written about him. Now, I decided to go the route of just having a moment of silence and not going any further than that. I figured that was more respectful, especially since reading the eulogy would just be reading everybody else's heartfelt words, which made me feel like I had no place to read it. But I did link it in the description of the video at the time. I do like the point that Echo makes, though, about how their music appeals broadly, because a lot of things they sing about, be it stereotypes, living conditions, or societal issues, they're things people all over the world recognize in their own areas and lives. Oh look, 3:07 a.m. Told you I still did it. Now, Artursa brings up that I didn't cover chicken hunting in any capacity. Now, the specific reason I didn't bring up chicken hunting in the video was because I didn't think there was specific lore or anything important attached to it. Rereading the book, thinking back, I realized that there was a little bit important about it. It was, if not the first, one of the first music videos they ever made, and they actually worked on it twice. Once they hated the music video that they originally made because they only got like chump change to make it, and in that video ICP wanted to round up some juggalos and have a music video where they were actually doing their chicken hunting, driving around in a van or truck or whatever downtown Detroit somewhere. And Island Records at the time wanted them to actually do something with the video involving a pie coming out of the engine and smacking them in the face as some sort of comedy, which they really weren't for. And from what I was reading in the book, it didn't sound like that bad of an idea, at least on ICP's end. Maybe even the pie in the face thing could have worked somehow. But in the end, they said it was just a miserable experience making the video, and it came out and they didn't like it. They made a separate video after that, and that video was them mostly performing on stage and at their concerts. Not specifically that song, but As he put it, it was a music video that helped people see what it was like being at their shows and being there with them. Next is Giga mentions that he's not a juggalo, but listening to things, he gets the idea it sounds a lot like Silent Hill. When I get into this with the Pendulum comic, or if you've seen it yourself, then you'll see a much better illustration of this. But yeah, the carnival itself does sound like Silent Hill in the terms of being a place that draws souls to it to be judged and to either find their redemption or their damnation while they're there. Headless Boogie, I get that reference. It brings up that Monoxide apologized for not going to the Juggalo March, and I really wasn't looking forward to revisiting this topic. Now, I had a lot of things to mention in the response to this comment, as you can see on the picture there, but there was a lot of information that I knew and I didn't want to bring up in the video because, as I've said in other videos, I don't want to be involved with dredging up drama, restarting it, picking at old wounds, whatever. Unless something has been clearly stated, clarified, and concluded, I don't like dragging anything out into the open any more than the people like being asked questions about it, I guess. I don't know. And most importantly, I didn't want to make anything sound accusatory or confrontational. Especially since I like Twiztid. A lot of juggalos out there still like listening to Twiztid. And they've actually had juggalos show up at their shows still. As one of them said in their... Let's see... Yeah, I wrote it down in the comment. Juggalo Drama Alert was the channel name. And the video is called Twiztid Explains Beef. And during their interview, they give the explanation of why they didn't want to get involved with the march. And as I say there, I don't agree with it, but I understand where they're coming from. And one of the things that sticks in my head from watching the interview that was on that video was when one of them, I forget who, one of the guys from Twiztid said something like, the Juggalos were looking at what was going on between ICP and Twiztid and having this sort of Mom, Dad, please stop fighting moment between them all. And yeah, some of them picked favorites, and some show up at the Twiztid concerts heckling them. But from what I can understand, a lot of Juggalos still like Twiztid and ICP. Now, the reason I don't agree with the reason that they didn't go to the march is that they said they were worried they were going to be getting on some sort of FBI list. Which, if the FBI already had Juggalos on gang lists, which is what the march was about, then Twiztid was already on the list by association. And Twiztid did say that they wanted to help with the legal funds of any Juggalo that got caught up in all this crap. But that doesn't fix the actual root cause of the issue. The one thing that sticks out to me is, and I don't remember where this was, so I can't source it, but I do know it's out there. I think this might have actually been in the Wired article, but either way. It wasn't so much truckers being pulled over because they had the Hatchet Man sticker on their truck. There was a documented case of somebody who was in a custody battle with his ex-wife or something. And during the trial, either the wife or the wife's lawyer brought up, Your Honor, he's a Juggalo, and they're a recognized gang, so he can't be good for the kids. So paying for the legal funds isn't going to help when they have evidence that says that. And until the FBI says otherwise, that is going to be counted as admissible evidence in court. Now, as I've also mentioned in the comment, other people did say no to the march, and they still have good relations with ICP, and they still show up in their concerts. I simplified that a little bit. Now, in the comment I just said march. The full thing was either you go to the march or you go to a charity or some other kind of concert that they were holding involved with it. I don't know if they did go to that other concert, and I don't even know if the concert was held. If it's the one that was supposed to take place after the march, that one apparently either got canceled or somebody said they didn't have the right permits and they couldn't hold it to begin with. But I get the feeling there was a separate one from that they were supposed to be showing up at. I'm not entirely sure right now. But the issue is, it's not Twiztid that ICP is saying no to. It's the entirety of Twiztid's record label. And I found some strong evidence as to why. And some ICP fans out there or whatever probably have seen the same stuff I have. I am not going to get into it because I am not a drama channel. The only thing I will say is there seems to be a very personal reason for it. It's one of those things that none of us have any way to be involved with any of it. And that's why I'm not going to get into it further. But I do hope that there is some sort of reconciliation in the future, because it is undoubtable that Twiztid and ICP complemented and contrasted each other very well when they worked together on their music. And it's especially harsh to see how close they were through their careers up to this point. And for all we know, them saying that there's never going to be any sort of reconciliation or working together again with Twiztid's record label, that might be entirely a professional business kind of thing. Behind the scenes, maybe they are still friends. And I sincerely hope so. Pod Princess 777 mentions a couple things that I've also seen in other comments, but because of the situation surrounding them, I wasn't sure if I should bring up each and every instance of them. She says she's been listening to ICP and other horrorcore artists for a year now, and it saves them. I've seen a number of other comments from my video and in other videos, not even about ICP, horrorcore, or rap, or anything else, just everything else that people see out there, some movie, some song, whatever. They talk about how they saw it, it gave them faith in themselves to keep strong or whatever, let them deal with very hard parts of their lives, and I get where they're coming from. One of these comments, I admit that I said, when I'm having a bad day, I listen to ICP and I let ICP get mad for me in their music. When I'm having a good day, then I still listen to them. It's just some of the other songs I want to listen to more than the others. Now, the other thing they bring up is being a girl and being looked down upon a bit due to being a teenager in the community, but learning and flourishing in it. I am going to revisit this a little later with somebody else's comments, because they have a lot more information on this regard. Jesse James, 2680, brings up that, again, their music saved them from themselves and from heartbreak, and saying it really is a healing mechanism. And they also mention Buckethead, and if you don't know them, he's a very talented and well-respected guitarist, and also someone with quite a few stories about him. You can probably guess where he got his name, and the reason he wears the bucket with the wig is because he actually is very, very shy. And so he came up with wearing the bucket mask to get around that. And there's also the story of when he was working with Guns N' Roses, there was a joke made about him living in a chicken coop. So he actually went ahead and built and lived in one on the recording studio property, complete with chickens in it. But again, for all his eccentricities, he's a very respected guitarist. So I can see how he's somebody who people can look up to and find inspiration from. Now, Dustin Shings brought up a few things, one of them a criticism that I agree with. First off, he brings up the "when all six have risen, the end of time will consume us all" thing. If I had better forethought in planning on this video, yes, I should have built up to that, to the surprise reveal of thy unveiling. The interruptions in the video, that's me catering to personal friends and other people that watch the videos, saying that some of these goofy things should have been left in like that. I'll probably still do it every so often in the future, but I have to be a little more aware that other people are going to be watching these things as well. He also points out that the Demon Drop is a real tower drop style ride located in Cedar Point Amusement Park in Ohio. And one last thing he brings up that I definitely overlooked was the fortune teller. He brings up one song, but I think there's at least two where Violent J says a fortune teller was his mother. Not his real life mother, but she does show up in one of the documentary videos made about ICP. I don't know how much the image on the fortune teller card in Into the Echo Side is actually based off his mother, but it would be interesting to see if there was evidence of that. However, and I believe I said this in the video too, there is a more direct shout-out that Violent J makes for his mother in the song Pass Me By, because ever since he was a little kid, that was something that his mother always said when they were growing up. Now, JP Lore Freak asked me if I would ever do a video on, I'm assuming the correct pronunciation is Ouija Macc. And he says he took the Dark Carnival in a whole new direction with his Elements saga and the birth of Dark Planet. I was open to this idea, and I still am. That said, when I looked into it at the time, I didn't listen to the music yet. I was unsure how much he had influence over the Dark Carnival itself. And with new albums that have come out, I'm still not sure if he has direct lore significance or addition to the Dark Carnival itself. Now, I do know for a fact that Ouija Macc is a producer on a number of the new Joker's Cards albums. Either the entire albums or songs on them or remixes. I believe he's still with Psychopathic Records to this day, or at least working with them. And he does have a great number of albums that are out. Seems to be just as prolific as ICP in making releases. The Dark Planet thing is something that I would like to look deeper into. The Elements saga, everything about Ouija Macc seems okay to look into. I just need to find the time for it. Like I said, I was open to doing this, but I kept having my time taken looking into other videos and real life stuff. I'm going to go with Kolisk 1054. Asked if I had a Spotify playlist for the songs I recommended, and I already did this in a response to this comment and in an update I made for the description of the video, but I'm going to make it known here again. Thank you, Kolisk, for bringing that up, because that was an excellent idea that I didn't think of when I made the video. There's a Spotify playlist now, and in a short moment I'm going to be adding on songs from another album I didn't know about, as well as the new album that ICP came out with. Wait a minute, Juan Carlos Morales, how did you figure out the name of the album a year ago? What did I miss? But again, a very important example of why I'm calling this a commenter contribution video. Martian Brain Squeeze mentions that the Beatles were around for less than 10 years... Oh, the crap. I thought about rolling in this comment with one of the earlier ones, but I feel it's best to talk about this one this way. A major correction I need to make about my Beatles comment was that for all the decades I was growing up, I kept hearing that the Beatles were good, not just because they did good music, but because they followed the trends in music. That was something that I heard from two people that I took as authority on the subject. One of them my uncle, who was a very big Beatles fan, to the point where he can describe the differences of the track list between the original vinyl release, the cassette release, and the CD release of what is titled to be the same album. And, possibly more significantly, my elementary school grade music teacher, who was, again, a Beatles fan, but he was a teacher, so as a kid I took him as the authority on anything he was saying. So when I suggested in the video that the Beatles were following trends or following the way the wind was blowing on what was popular about music, that's where it came from. After I saw this, I wanted to double check the 10 years thing, because I said to myself, there's no way the Beatles were only around 10 years. They have so much stuff out there that I keep hearing. They have such a cultural impact. It could have been 10 years. Well, he was right, it was 10 years. And even in their solo careers, they're still making good stuff. So that might be part of it as well. And while that speaks volumes of the impact that the Beatles had on the music industry and how much they influence and inspire everybody that's heard them or was around with them, in looking that up, I discovered something that I really need to be correcting about what I said in the video. And when I read it, I realized that I already knew it. It's just for some reason I didn't think to say it or believe it or what have you. It's one reason or another I said what I said in the video. The Beatles were good because they were pioneering what became the trends. Now, of course, somebody had to come up with it beforehand. They had to figure it out that it existed somehow. I'm not saying they were completely inventing things that they were doing, but they were certainly the trend setters for it and not the trend followers for any of it. So that's a major correction I need to make about that comment. And at least with that mistake, I have a little bit of a better excuse for it. Arkham Ninja brings up that he feels the original 6 Joker's cards were the best, and I'm not sure how much he connects this with why they were the best or not, but I find it an important point that the mystery and mystique of the messages are gone, he feels. It is interesting to wonder how different the rest of the Joker's cards that came out with after the Wraith would have been if they kept the mystery and the mystique about the messaging, if they didn't do the song Thy Unveiling and make it all clear. I really wonder if we would have gotten the Missing Link albums or if they would have done something different for those. And I do honestly wonder how many people would find it better if they had to come up with their own conclusions about what it all meant, compared to ICP making it clear it was all a spiritual thing. And as a sort of preview, I will say that that's a thought that we'll be returning to when I cover the Not album in an upcoming video. Now, speaking of coming up with their own conclusions, Juggalo Boys 6JC and Kyle Chesney 2740 both had very interesting ideas about either specific songs on an album or for the overall ideas of the albums themselves. Now, we'll start with Juggalo Boy, who mentions that he believes a few songs off of Fearless Fury are specifically Rings of Hell, almost seeming like the 7 Deadly Sins. Now, for the purposes of this thought exercise, I included Flip the Rat as part of the Fearless Fred Fury album, because Flip the Rat is Fred Fury's pet, and it's kind of the side attraction to Fearless Fred Fury. Now, to start off with, I'll say the song Red Fred fits with Pride, since Fred Fury gets involved if you have a lack of pride in yourself or your pride in yourself pushes you to stand up for yourself. Now, I'll link Greed and Avarice to the song Hawking from the Flip the Rat album, primarily because that song goes through a lot of discussion about corporations and governments letting their desire for power and money screw over the people in the world around them. Lust could go for a couple things, but I'm going to apply it to I Like It Rough, which was a song about all the extreme sexual activities they wanted to get into. Envy I link with Satellite. Satellite is a song more about avoiding envy by taking a new perspective in things. As the song suggests, take the perspective of a satellite and have a wider view of the world. Gluttony I'll link to another song off of Flip the Rat, which is Hungry. And that one's fairly obvious. Wrath on the Fearless Fred Fury albums could apply to a lot of things. And originally I was going to say Night of Red Rum because that was indiscriminate violence. However, I decided fully on West Verner Avenue because that was a song that had a focus on plotted revenge. And finally, Sloth, which is Game Over. A song about somebody who just wants to sit around and play video games all day. I'm going to have to give a thumbs up to Juggalo Boy on that one. That was a really good observation. And with Kyle Chesney, let's see if we can find the connection that he's seeing with these Joker's cards. We're going with some Death of the Author ideas here because we've already seen what ICP says all these are meant to be. But that doesn't mean we can't come up with our own stuff. Carnival of Carnage being metaphorical to life and existence. Now, skipping the idea that the carnival was the personification of God, or however you look at it, then yes, I can agree with this, because the Carnival of Carnage album was a focus on the livelihoods and existence of people in the inner city, as well as the lives and existence of people outside of it, as well as the interaction between the two lives and existence. The Ringmaster, God. Well, if the Ringmaster is in charge of the Dark Carnival, then I guess that would make him God. The Riddle Box being the embodiment of fate is pretty much inarguable because it chooses your fate after you die. Or reveals it. Now, in terms of if it controls your fate, not sure. Great Malenko and the Devil. At first I was going to say I'm not sure how this is being concluded, but then I remembered that Malenko is stated to be casting illusions to lead people down the wrong path. So in that regard, he does sound a lot like the devil. The Amazing Jekyll Brothers being the embodiment of conscience. Again, almost inarguable. That is exactly what the two of them are meant to portray, at least. It's already stated that one of them is of a positive nature, and the other one is of a negative nature, and somebody's knowledge of what is conscionable actions or not. The Wraith being death, again, inarguably stated by ICP that the Wraith is the Grim Reaper, and he is your guide to whatever afterlife you go to. Swatterman08 says that he hopes Mikey Clark gets some credit. Without him, we would have been stuck with the Wraith sound. For those of you who haven't actually listened to all their albums, yes, the Wraith album, Shangri-La, does sound much different than the other albums previously, and that is because Mikey Clark was the producer of the music for nearly everything in those first 5 Joker's cards and the Bizarre albums. So yeah, Mikey Clark, real important to ICP, definitely the third member of the band. And he was important as a producer for the music early on. Mikey Clark was the one that was actually getting the music composed and put together for them, and solidifying their style and sound. The main producer for the Wraith Shangri-La was Mike P, and I do want to point out that I was very tempted to talk about the quality of the sound and how things were different with all the albums, but I felt like that was starting to play favorites and talking down on the quality of other people. Mike P has produced other songs and albums with them, some of them remixes, and overall I don't see any fault with either Mike P, or full name Mike Powell, I believe, Puwal. But the thing about producers working on the music for the album, ICP is still the ones that are in charge of what the music sounds like or what the music on the album is going to be. The BFN brings up, it's crazy to them to think about Jay or Shaggy reading Edgar Allan Poe books, but every weirdo freak out there loves Edgar. Homeboy gets a lot of love, I hope you know that, Poe, and you're smiling. I bring this up because he talks about weirdos liking him. He has influenced a lot of the modern entertainment that we're dealing with today. Because when I say Edgar Allan Poe, a lot of people think creepy, scary stories. What doesn't seem to pop into people's minds that often is that Edgar Allan Poe also wrote general detective novels as well. His detective writings inspired Sherlock Holmes from Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. His gothic horror inspired the Cthulhu mythos from H.P. Lovecraft. And just in general, it's impossible to describe fully how much his influence affected other literary genres and techniques out there. So while it's easy to see Edgar Allan Poe as just a horror writer, his contributions to art are quite literally immortal on what we see in the decades since his time, as well as the modern age. And for those of you wondering, my favorite Edgar Allan Poe story is Hop Frog. Aiden HN1FT says they like the song If We Were in a Gang, to which I responded, I knew that one and I didn't bring it up, and that is damn embarrassing for me. And I believe the issue that happened was that I had notes taken to put it somewhere in the section about the Juggalo March, because everyone who said yes to joining the Juggalo March when it came to the singers and acts and things, they were invited to actually sing I believe it was a 16-bar segment of lyrics for that song, If We Were a Gang. And I think it fell victim to another one of my editing fits, where I originally was going to get into something about, if the FBI's reasoning for Juggalos being a gang is because a bunch of people are co-opting the names of the artists or songs or characters, whatever, and calling themselves after them, like one of them called themselves the Anybody Killers, after one of the artists at Psychopathic Records at the time. then I was going to make this joke in comparison to, well, if a bunch of gangs out there started calling themselves the Donald Ducks or the Mickey Mouse Club, then that would put Disney on a gang watch list, right? We all know no, but then I found the Wired article and felt that it was better to give them credit with a comparison about all of a sudden every Muslim in the country needs to be looked at because of 9/11 or whatever. Cameron Flage1293 says that even if you don't like the music, you can learn a lot from their marketing tactics if you're an underground musician. I may have mentioned this earlier if it didn't get edited out for some weird reason, but my father, in a discussion about Insane Clown Posse, talked about how he doesn't like them, he doesn't see why people like them, but he is very impressed at their ability to be successful in the music industry, and he is not surprised at all the trouble they've had with labels like Island and Hollywood, because, as he says it, the music industry is the hardest entertainment industry to ever get into. And if I thought of what Cameron Flage just said here years ago when I was taking my business classes at college, I definitely would have made an essay or something like that about their success and their business tactics in doing all this stuff. Because Cameron Flage says you can learn a lot if you're an underground musician. I would say, like Violent J says in the book, anybody in any field, in anything they want to do in life, can learn from what they did getting to their success. And I still remember the quote from the book when Violent J says, after like 2 chapters of talking about how he kept going back and forth to Kinko's, he says something like, I know some of you are getting pretty bored of me talking about Kinko's, but I'm a multimillionaire telling you that Kinko's was a major part of being a multimillionaire. The Rapping Conservative 2438 actually asked if I was scared of listening to them. This was another one of those comments that made me think of something after I responded to it that I should have said in the video, because it was a much better concise explanation of things. You hear Insane Clown Posse being described as horrorcore or horror rap or whatever, and like I was discussing with a friend of mine about this, when I heard their songs, I was like, I don't know what the genre of horrorcore is. This sounds like the usual, people getting shot at and rap music kind of thing of the day. That was very early in my introduction to them, but when he asked me if I'm scared of listening to them, the 2 things I responded with was, if he's asking me if I'm scared of listening to them because I'm worried about being influenced by them to be a bad person or something, no. Mommy and Daddy raised me, right? Nobody's going to see my name in any newspapers, don't worry. Now, if I was scared of listening to them because they're horror, true story, when I was a kid growing up in my English teacher's music class, one of the things he introduced us to was the Banshee. The Banshee is a classical piano composition that doesn't use the keys. The Banshee actually has you reach into the strings part of the piano and mess with them with your hands and fingers. It's literally supposed to be painful to play, and it sounds terrifying if done right. And when we were shown that, my teacher offered that we could close our eyes because the music video, not exactly music video, but the slides on the projector they were going to show with it, might be scary because they had skeletons and stuff. And, it turns out later I found out it was like Victorian England Black Death pictures and stuff like that. But I was a kid, I was impressionable, so I was like, oh my god, no. So I'm sitting there for the whole music covering my eyes and being scared of something that I was told was going to be scary, and that was the only reason it was scary. If somebody says something's a horror movie, I expect to see horror elements in it, but at the same time I'm not sure how scared I'm going to be, because it's a weird instance of, well, it calls itself a horror movie, so I expect to be scared. So expecting to be scared makes me prepared to be scared, so it doesn't hit as hard, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Now, as I said in the reply, though, there are things that are more thought-provoking, existential horror themes that they sing about, like Angels Are Falling, or I See the Devil, or there was a new song I came across, not new, but new to me song I came across called Mr. Nothing Man. Highly recommend that song. And I allude to this in the video when I was talking about horror music or whatever, and I played a segment of Ultra Despair Girls from the Danganronpa series, where the horror came from what thoughts it provoked us into thinking of, at least for me. Maybe the best way to experience horror is to try to project yourself into the characters as they're experiencing everything. This sounds a lot like trying to explain the joke in comedy, but I don't know. He got me thinking. I'm sorry. However, the third thing I didn't cover, which I thought to myself, oh god, I wish I thought of this when I made the video, is after explaining all that, if I tried to explain Insane Clown Posse and their style of music to anybody going forward, I would say it's just a musical version of watching Friday the 13th, or probably more like Nightmare on Elm Street, where it's more comedy in those movies. There's still horror, there's still terrifying ideas in them when you think about it. And describing it that way just, I don't know, makes me think even more about what made people think so bad about ICP back in their early days and all that. Even to this day, like, people out there going, well, I don't understand why they gotta sing those songs or whatever. They have horror movies, they might as well have horror music. We already have horror novels, horror poems, you know. So M. Lawrence Z9K says that, as a lyricist myself, he feels Violent J would actually be a top-tier lyricist if he kept improving his skills and actually tried harder over time. He then claims he got lazy after getting rich and being a sellout and things. He feels that some of his songs were actually very well written, and he can obviously be a decent storyteller when he chooses to be. And he starts comparing him to the success and the growth of Eminem. I'm not going to get into that. I disagree with where he's coming from about being a sellout and stuff like that. However, I do not discount that there is a sort of comfortable zone or rut that people get into sometimes, especially when they crest that mountain of all the hardships they've been getting through to get to the top of that. I do feel that Violent J and Shaggy are still trying to improve and come up with new ideas and new ways to do things. The way that the newer Joker's Card albums sound different is, from what I understand, because they actually are trying to use, share, and introduce new music styles to people out there. I'm not entirely sure that I can find ironclad sources for that. That's mostly coming from an interview or discussion that Violent J had over his use of Auto-Tuner in one of the Fearless Fred Fury songs. I can't remember which one off the top of my head. As much as this comment sounds like he's talking down, and yes, he's probably doing it a little bit in some capacity, especially toward the end, I think it's important to bring up the distinction that he is constantly saying that he feels Violent J can be better and could always be better. He's giving criticism, not hatred, I guess you could say. Again, I'm not trying to start drama or anything, but if you want more evidence of him being critical and not complaining about it all, and this was entirely an unexpected thing, considering what I heard. Like I said, he's comparing him to Eminem, but at the same time, he's saying that he felt the diss track that Violent J wrote about Eminem was actually very well written. The guy who's saying Eminem's better than Violent J is saying that he liked the Violent J diss song about Eminem. Now, I believe the song he's referencing here is off of one of the Bizarre albums, Please Don't Hate Me. If you haven't heard that song yet, the basis is just him doing a bunch of basic I had sex with your mom song, all the different ways he did it. There's already some humor to it, but at the time I first heard it, I thought it was just, okay, another sex song, got it, fine. And then at the end came the final lyrics, which literally made me openly laugh in the car while I was driving around. M. Lawrence, if you're watching, you say you're a lyricist, I checked your channel, I saw some rap music videos on there. If you want to do a video series or an essay or something, or if you already have something out there, a podcast, blog spot, whatever, with your opinions and analysis of how good or how effective the lyrics are that rappers or other artists out there do it, I am saying this completely honestly. I would love to know about it, and I would love to share it with everybody else that's watching this. Because I love seeing the opinions, I love seeing where you're coming from on this sort of stuff. And I want everybody seeing this to give you a chance if you make and share any of that stuff. These next two comments are something that I'm going to be discussing a little more in an upcoming video on the Pendulum comic series itself. At first I was going to roll that into this video, but I felt that there was a lot more to discuss in it, and it should be its own short little video later on. Both Bayerhead and 665 Vulture brought up the Pendulum comic as a response to something I said in the video, where I know they made it, I know they released music on each of the, not albums, each of the issues of the comic that came out, but I couldn't find them anywhere, physical or digital, so I couldn't really give an overview of them in the video itself. The Pendulum comic book series did have, pretty much once an issue, at least one of the Joker's cards showing up to help Jay and Shaggy in their adventures of dealing with the big bad evil guy. And now to the comments that I consider very important in terms of contributing to information about Insane Clown Posse, and especially the Juggalos. See, when I made the video, I tried to be fairly generalized about my description of the Juggalos and what they believed in. Primarily because Juggalos are literally everybody and anyone. There were some things I wanted to say in the video, but I couldn't find actual statements in interviews or whatever about it. And that's pretty much because there isn't an ironclad definition of being a Juggalo. At least in the sense of college professor PowerPoint presentation version of it. In my experience, and from what I'm getting from the songs, being a Juggalo means that you are free to be yourself. And you are ready to help others and help them express themselves. And be there for... It's a giant family, and they treat each other like family. We treat each other like family. We treat others like family. It's a place for everybody to belong and everybody to express themselves. One of the things I really wanted to bring up in the Juggalo charity section was a Facebook page I found for a Juggalo universal church. I forget what the actual term is, but it was explicitly stated to be a place where Juggalos of all faiths and religions could come in and pray however they wanted to whoever they wanted to. It wasn't meant to be a church of a single religion. It was just meant to be a safe place for everybody to be for their religions. And I could not find it again when I was doing research again for the video. But quite frankly, if everything about Juggalos is about freedom to be yourself, freedom of expression, freedom to believe in whatever you want, and just bettering yourself and helping others better themselves, and trying to help your community and the people around you, and standing up for what you believe in when it's necessary. That sounds like something else, doesn't it?
I'm an American?
That sounds like just being human, doesn't it? But I can talk about it as much as I want, and it really wouldn't mean much without examples. And you Juggalos in the comments really came through and proved who we all are. Without prompting, without Like I said, I never knew this video was going to be seen by all the people that did see it. I had no expectations about it. There was no word put out. There was no organized, all the Juggalos should watch this thing. I mean, I didn't search to see if anybody shared this thing on Reddit or something, but I'm not. I'm not going to look. But the point is, when I was doing research, I saw plenty of Juggalos talking about stuff on other videos and other articles, and even non-Juggalos, which I'm going to show you one of those in a second, talking about their experience being at the concert surrounded by Juggalos. And quite frankly, one of your comments was one of the main reasons I wanted to do this video and make sure that I made the commenters seen as contributors and more than just people that left a comment. There's that saying, you are what you are in the dark. The internet is still a fairly anonymous place. When you commented on this video with the stories you shared, you were sharing not just your experiences, but you also shared the proof of all the positives that there are to be a Juggalo and to be with the Juggalo family. Now, Gutterpunk4203 had a lot of discussions with me in the comments, but I chose this one to focus on. He's saying he's noticed that there's some judgmental and hateful people in the community, and not saying it's the whole community, but it just in general hurts to see people claiming to be a Juggalo while being judgmental and hateful toward others. And he doesn't like how hypocritical some people can be when they say they're a part of this Juggalo family, when this isn't what Juggalos are supposed to be like. He's not gay or trans, but there are people in his life that he cares about that are gay and trans who consider themselves Juggalos. And he doesn't want something that they love to be ruined by spiteful bigots. And to just summarize what I say here, this is always a problem with any community. And I'm sure it's very easy for people who want to jump on anything bad about the Juggalos to point at them and say, see, that's why they're bad, that's why they're bad. That the bad apples of the bunch kind of thing here. Like I said, the gang members running around calling themselves Juggalos, causing Juggalos to now be considered a gang by the FBI. That kind of crap is always something all communities have to deal with. The people who always make them look bad. But there is something to say about the fact that there is a more willing acceptance to believe that, you know, these bad examples are the example of the whole. When in reality, we don't want them here any more than the people on the outside want to see them. And this discussion here with Gutterpunk is an example of, and I've done Sonic videos. Anybody in the Sonic fan community probably knows what I'm about to say here too. There's a lot of self-policing, so to speak, that our communities have to do amongst ourselves, because we know people have their preconceptions about our fandoms, our beliefs, whatever. We just have to make sure that these people don't speak for it. Which is why talking about the charities was a forefront idea I had for that video I made. No community or fandom is ever going to be 100% free of toxicity, of people that make them look bad, of people that are using their stuff that they like or their stuff that they're doing as a cover or a smokescreen of their own bad behaviors. But if we don't call out these problems and take issue with them, if we just stay quiet about it and don't talk up about it, then they are going to be representative of us. And if you want stronger evidence for that in terms of Insane Clown Posse, not only is one of their #1 targets for judgment in their songs bigots, but they made an entire song called Mr. Whitesuit about somebody who does the right thing to help people around them, and they become a mythological figure in the community. And Sean Reiner, 15202, accentuates that point where he gives us a bit of his history and the songs and albums he liked listening to with them, and where his respect for them comes from. And at the very end says that every Juggalo he's ever met are very cool and super nice people, and that's something he loves too. And for further evidence, here's 2 stories I want to share. One of them comes from a reviewer of the documentary movie that was made about the Juggalo March and the Juggalo gang label situation. Now, this is written by Richard Props, I believe is the pronunciation, the independent critic. He's one of those people who says he wasn't a fan of ICP beforehand, but his brother was, and he went to a gathering of the Juggalos with his brother. And to quote his review, "It gets a little bonkers, yet at no point have I ever felt out of place at an ICP concert. In fact, it's usually quite the opposite. As a wheelchair user, I often measure my concert experiences by how much I'm able to experience the scene and how much the crowd ensures that everyone has a good time. At an ICP concert, it's like Juggalos are automatically drawn to those whom they know have survived. They're among the best concert crowds I've ever experienced, and trust me, as a wheelchair user, that's not always the case with other music acts." The entire review is an interesting article, not just about the documentary, but about himself and his experiences with it. And it's not this review, but there was another one I saw. They went to a concert, and they said that people were calling out, and because they knew it was his first concert with ICP, and they knew that he didn't know what to expect with it, they were doing things like calling out to him, telling him to move, or reaching out and trying to block all the Faygo soda bottles that were thrown out in the crowd if they ever got close to him. But probably the best Juggalo story I've ever heard, something that really shows what we're all about when it comes to how we treat strangers that are outside of our family. The true top comment on that video that shows it so incredibly. Leviopo tells us a story that he's not a Juggalo, but when he was 16 he passed out alone at a music festival, and later woke up in a med tent surrounded by 3 Juggalos. When he asked if there's anything he can do to thank them, they just said to go see ICP. And he ends with saying, "I don't listen to their music, but he's got nothing but love and respect for the community." In response to this, Chemo the Hated, later on in the comment string, said, "That's one thing about us Juggalos, is we care about one another and everyone else, and we will help and protect you no matter what. Welcome to the family. You don't gotta be a fan of the music to be family. Remember that." I repeatedly saw mention that you didn't have to be a fan of ICP or anything in Psychopathic Records to be a Juggalo. And that's why I said earlier I compared being a Juggalo to just being a human. And I feel that this story that Leviopo shared is the most indicative of that. And I'm glad it's the most liked and top comment on the video, especially after I removed my pinned comment and let this one take the top spot like it should. There was once something I saw where a question was given: if you had the power and ability to do anything you wanted to, what would you do? And this was structured like a meme, so I don't know what the full conversation looked like, but it was... the response was, "I would help people." And the guy responded back, "Well, that's boring." And the guy responded, "That's what I want to do." There's a lot that can be gotten into about technical terms or bullet points about what Juggalos are and what to expect with Juggalos. But in the end, it's like the Iron Giant's ending. We are who we choose to be. And as Juggalos, we choose to be the best people we can be, for ourselves and for others. And it's not because that's what we want people to see us as. It's because what we want to be. And while I'll end my part of the video with that, there's a little bit of a big special thank you and finale I want to give everybody out there watching. All the commenters, this is my special thanks for you, and for those of you watching, if the music annoys you, just hit mute or something and let these guys have their moment in the video, because I want them all to know that I appreciate them. But this took a while, and there's some new comments, so for those of you that I couldn't fit into the upcoming big finale, here's your comments now. Sorry I couldn't get you in on it, and I guess there's just one last thing I didn't say in the last video. Much clown love, all y'all. Whoop whoop!
Give it to me.
Let the fucking bass go. Tweedledee and Tweedledum. Let the fucking bass go.
And the Juggalo make it last. Down to dump and John kick chest. My fellow fucking fellas. Southwest gangster killers. Violent J, that's psychopathic. Some might say I'm schizophrenic. Others think I'm klepto-psychic. But somehow the bitches like it. What's up?
Well, I could be right and I could be wrong. And if I ain't dead now, then I won't be long. But it does not matter what set you on. Tonight everybody sings that Southwest song. Watch out now. Everybody singing that Southwest song. It's wicked. Everybody singing that Southwest song.
Give it up. Southwest Looney Tune killed another redneck. Fun his head and booty doon. Dooney boon, booney goon. I can hear the looms in my head as I sing my wicked song. The show must go on.
These clowns were different. There was nothing funny about these clowns at all. They smiled, they juggled, they laughed, but yet something went terribly wrong. I didn't like these clowns, for I could see through them. I knew what they were really like. I knew that this carnival that had come to my village was an evil thing.
In the show, big talk show, walk hand in hand with the dead carnival. Dead dirty carnies, dead juggalos, walk hand in hand with the dead carnival.
Like shit and live in the gutter and sell crack to each other. When they were kids, you'd beat them and leave them home, and even whip them with the cord on the telephone. And that reminds me, man, hey, you gotta call. Watch your step to hell, it's a long rain, but ain't going your way. This is all because of you. Rain, but ain't going your way. This is all because of you.
This is our hell now. We living in it. But this bullshit'll be over in a minute. Then it's off to the Fagos and end holes. New clothes and patent leather for your toes. And while you're sitting around crying for your dead friend, he's chilling up there, paid, getting mad ends. He's probably there trying to figure out why you're sad. He's on the beach getting fat. You got it bad. And for those who ain't down for the next man, who rob from the poor and snatch all you can, and any chicken talking shit, let me tell you something. Hold a lighter to your balls, then you'll see what's coming.
We all gon' die, but I'm not gon' fry. Even though most never try, I'm not gonna let this pass me by. No, we all gon' die, but I'm not gon' fry. Even though most never try, I'm not gonna let this pass me by. No.
Won't that be something when you go to live in your own mansion?
But then again, who am I? I'm just some typical guy. I ain't no fucking hero. I just been wondering why.
level. Profile flips, both hands in the but the level below is where they don't want it. They all look the other way and continue with bullshit. The floor's cracking again, he screamed and then smashed down right through it like something engulfed him. Nobody really seemed to care much on any level. Watching him fall and guessing they don't meet the level. His head hit a rock, maybe a pipe, I don't know, but he was dead now and still got his floors to go.
See him out in Vegas. He's acting rather odd. This motherfucker's getting sick of the facade. And Berkey's taking losses, and if you didn't know, he's got horrible bosses. So what's the diagnosis? When you can't sleep and you start hearing voices. He's got too many chores, might kill his whole family, might kill yours.
No longer steering, lost all control. Manipulation, it won't let me go. The pain exploded, the pressure burst. I dropped the wheel, headed for the worst. Headed for the worst, headed for the worst.
Knowing is have to be. Yeah, I do.
1, 2, 3, 4. Willie motherfucking D is at the door with a 4-4 maybe. My homie got a 380. I do it for myself and my kids and my old lady. Don't be looking all crazy trying to play us cheap. We just trying to figure out a way to eat. They say the blacks and the whites can't get along, but ICP and Ghetto Boys just did a song. Man, I work hard, so I play hard. Dick stay hard when I'm in my broad. It's a struggle every day, gotta pay the card. Anyway,
When I lay down at night, I see the devil on the seal. I see the devil in every bag of dope I sell. Every dollar I make brings me closer to hell. I got bitches on my dick and money to spend, but every road I take, I see the devil at the end. I see the devil every time I drink and drive. I see him right beside me, telling me to get live. He tells me to floor it, I try to ignore it. He laughs when we crash and everybody's blood's pouring. The answer. Missing kids been gone for years. He takes them home and the parents cheer. He got 100 spokes, corners, he bends them. With his face on a fat hood emblem, he hits the car wash, closed for business, and leaves it thriving alive. What is this? What is this? What is this? Your life ain't right. Keep your eyes open for the man in white. If you're lost and alone, looking for the truth, you can find the way home. Follow the white sun. The white sunshine. His caddy. All three of you are demented and I've had it. Eddie, I'm going home to be with my wife. Hank, you wanna eat something? Try my balls. And Dan, I don't know what you are, Dan.
3 murder birds, 1 more than man. Don't question what. 3 murder birds, 1 more than man.
Pills help me coop. Are pills dope? No. Such control. I crush and sort 'em up my face or plug 'em up my butthole. Pull me up a little shot. Okay, there's you, the bottom line. I'll probably kill a 6 of these before I'm feeling fine. Quickly hose a line when they yell it's closing time. But when they see it don't include me, they moan and whine. Construction workers, florists, wreckers, collision shops. Fire trucks, ambulances, doctors and cops. Coffee carvers and funeral parlors get paid for real. Every time I get behind the wheel, hop in.
So you don't like this?
The drunk and the addict.
Do what you want to.
The addict and the drunk. The
Do
addict
what
and
you
the
like. Do what you like. Do what you want to. No, you don't like
The
this.
drunk and the addict.
Do what you want to.
The addict and the drunk. The
Do
addict
what
and
you
the
like. Do what you like. Do what you want to.
drunk. The drunk and the addict. Addict, the addict and the drunk. The addict and the drunk.
never, ever, ever gonna die, motherfucker! What this place is, your future, make it a reality. All you have to do is follow me.